Hello, everybody. My name is Trinity, and today I'm going to be sharing with you some of my favorite Christian nonfiction books. First up is Live by Sadie Robertson, and I read this book twice because the first time I read it, I was like rushing through it to check it off the list and move on, but I didn't really retain a lot from it, so I reread it and I really enjoyed it. It talks about a lot about, exactly what the title is, living, being alive, what the definition of that means, and how just a lot of different topics on like gossiping and confidence and dealing with haters. And here it says on the back like how to replace temporary highs with the promises of God. It's got just a lot of cool things in it, and it's pretty easy to read. It's got a lot of pictures in it. It's easy to understand, which is really nice, and it goes by pretty fast, but like I learned a lot from it. As you can see, I got like a lot of quotes, tab things in here that I really liked. And so it was totally worth it, and I would definitely read it again. Next up, we have Untangle Your Emotions by Jenny Allen, and this is a really helpful book for me. She talks a lot about like how to, she's got 5 sections: notice, name, feel, share, and choose on what to do with your emotions. She first starts out by saying notice, as in, are you doing okay or are you not okay? Like, are you saying you're fine and you really are, like it's great, or you're saying you're fine but you're not really fine and you don't know why. She goes on to help you name it. Is it anger or joy or sadness, or you're confused or frustration? And then has you go into more detail, and she gives you like helpful adjectives to use and different ways to do that. As in, here's an example, like with anger. Are you like full of rage and you can't move on and it's really hard for you and you just are having such a hard time with it? Or you're just a little frustrated and angry and it's like you still need to work through it, but it's a little bit more mild. Then she talks about feeling it, like not letting your emotions control you, as in the second you get angry, you act out of anger, or the second you get sad, you act out of sadness. Like how to not really do that, but also not bottling your emotions, because even though in the moment it seems fine, because it's just like a little emotion, over time those add up, and you might like react over something that usually wouldn't be much of a problem and just be like a little annoying, but you'd be fine. She talks about the importance of dealing with it in a healthy way. Then she goes on to talk about sharing with God and with others. How even though sometimes we might be like, oh, well, God knows everything, he knows what I'm feeling, it's fine, I don't really need to share with him. There is something healing and freeing in praying and talking to him and saying, like, physically giving it to him, like, or maybe not like physically, but like giving it to him, giving it over to him and trusting him with it, and just sharing it with him. It feels like a weight like lifted. And same with sharing. Scientifically, sharing with another person is proven to heal, like physically heal part of your brain, which I thought was really cool. So what it should be a trusted person, whether that's your mom or a friend or a counselor or just a relative, just somebody you trust. It is physically healing and helpful. And then the last step was choose. Are you going to live in that emotion and just label it as yourself? Like, are you going to be like, well, I deal with sadness a lot, so I'm just a sad person, I'm going to be like this forever? Like, no, you should like choose to move forward, okay? Because it is possible, and healing is possible, and it looks different for everybody, and how sometimes choosing looks like choosing to every day try and fail, because you're not going to be perfect at it immediately. And sometimes it looks like maybe talking to a counselor or something. It's different for everybody again, but just choosing to move forward with Jesus and with others, and not like live in the pit or in the moment forever. Next up, we have The Hiding Place by Corrie ten Boom, and this was a very like interesting book. I really liked it, and it was about her life in during World War II, when Hitler was attacking all the Jews. And she wasn't a Jew herself, but her family helped Jews and hid them in her house, and they protected them, and it was just like a really interesting book. And it was very risky, like business. Like they hid the Jews, and they had to like have almost like fire alarms, like training drills for if somebody showed up at their house to come get the Jews. At one point, the police did catch them, and they had to go to camps. And it doesn't say what happened to every Jew and stuff, but the family that was protecting the Jews went to the camps as well. And it was really, really hard for them. The families got divided, and they were like in their own jail cell for months at a time. Like, imagine, and they got sick, and they didn't have enough doctors, so they're like all by themselves, sick in this cold, dark jail cell for months at a time. Like, that sounds horrible. And there was so much more to it, but I'm just scratching the surface here. But it was very interesting because even during those hardest times, they still trusted Jesus and they still had hope in it. And at one point, somebody snuck a Bible in for them. And after they were in jail cells, they got moved to like this one huge like communal area where there were like thousands upon thousands of girls in this one room. And instead of seeing this as a horrible situation, they took advantage of the situation with their Bible, and they had nightly like Bible studies with everyone, and they ended up leading a lot of people to Christ. So instead of seeing it as like a terrible, terrible situation, I mean, they probably had their moments, but they saw it as Jesus went through suffering too, and he says, he even promised, like, in this world you will have trouble, but take heart, for I have overcome the world. And that was like their foundation through all of that. And they went on to talk about all the experiences they went through afterward. It was just very interesting, and it made me very like grateful for what I do have, and how even though in this world we do have trouble, we can take heart because Jesus has overcome the world. Next up, we have The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry by John Mark Comer, and this is a really good book. It's about how we live in like a hurry culture, how everybody's like, you have to hurry and do this and do that, and you're successful if you're on top of the business chain, and you work really like all the time and really hard, and how social media has really taken over our life a lot, and just some of the history on time, and how, I mean, like interesting facts, like before Thomas Edison invented the light bulb, people used to sleep 11 hours at night, which sounds kind of crazy to me just because I don't sleep. I mean, if you sleep 11 hours a night, props to you, because you're probably getting amazing rest. Good, like that's amazing. And there are like 4 different tips he gives that are helpful, like one is try practicing silence and solitude, whether that's for 5 minutes a day, whether that's for an hour a day, whatever, you know, floats your boat. But just sitting in quiet and in silence, and either like, and just clearing not only the noise around you, but like the crazy thoughts going through your, like jumping around your head, and either pray or just taking God's creation, or just ask God to speak to you, or whatever that looks like. Just sitting in silence and solitude is an important part, and Sabbath, how much of that has changed over the last couple decades, how it used to be much more important than it is now, and how Sunday, like, it was a crazy thing when gas stations were open on Sundays, because that like is now everything's open on Sundays, and how it doesn't even have to be Sunday, just choosing it, because some Sundays look busy for people, just choosing a day of the week where instead of just hurrying through your day, you're spending your day restfully and worshiping Jesus and praying, and just be walking in creation and just being thankful for what he has given you, and just taking a moment to be thankful for all he has done. Then he talks about simplicity, and how even though Jesus in the 10 Commandments wasn't like, you have to live a simple life, it's very important, but how Jesus's lifestyle was simple. How, I mean, him and the disciples, they traveled around with just the clothes on their back, and they relied on other people for food. And he's not saying you have to only wear the clothes on your back for the rest of your life and rely on strangers for food. Like, he's not saying that, but how basically, like, if you're finding your self-worth in everything about yourself in material things, like the clothes you wear, the things you own, how really your treasure is being stored up for you in heaven, and how it's better to find your self-worth in who Jesus says you are, like, because Jesus says you are loved and chosen and adored. And so choosing to find your self-worth in Jesus rather than in just the things you own. So then he talks about slowing as the last one, which is just, and that can look different. That can look like standing in the longest line at the grocery store, like literally slowing, or just, taking random moments throughout your day to just be like, thank you for this day. Or instead of, he talks a lot about instead of spending your time, because everybody's talking about, oh my gosh, time goes by so fast, it's crazy, and you have to seize the moment and seize the day, which is true. Time goes by pretty fast. This is a short time in the grand scheme of eternity. And so he's talking about rather than seeing every single day of your life as you have to seize it, maybe see it as like, just be grateful. Think of every moment God has given you as like a gift from God. Like, just be so grateful that he has given that gift to you. Last but definitely not least is Winning the War in Your Mind by Craig Groeschel. I think that's how you say it. I might have said that wrong. He gives you 4 principles that are helpful. He talks about, his first principle is the replacement principle, to identify the lies. He talks about a lot about the thoughts you think and how really important they are, because every thought you think is physically in your brain, not like words or in out. I don't know all the science behind it, but physically in your brain, and it will stay in your brain for a certain number of hours, and then probably a couple days, and then if you don't think it again, it goes away. And if you do, like, there's science behind it. You can look it up. It's called neural pathways, and there's a lot of science behind it. I'm not that smart, okay? I don't know all that, but he talks about how it is important to like identify the lies you are believing and replace them with the truth. So he talks about what are the lies you are believing, such as I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, I'm bad at this. Like, identify those lies. And then part 2 is replacing them with truth. Looking at Bible verses that are not support those, are the opposite of those. And so if you are thinking I'm not worthy and I'm not loved, find things like, for God so loved the world, he created his one and only son, because God loved you so much that his son died on the cross for you. Like, find the truth to defeat the lie. And there, a helpful thing I use is there's this website called Topical Bible, and you can look up a topic and it'll give you verses on that. So if your Bible doesn't have like whatever the thing in the back is called with all the verses, if it doesn't have that, or you don't have some memorized, that is a helpful website. And then part 3 is the reframe principle, which is, again, basically where you are replacing them with truth, but then you're making a declaration. So if the thought you're thinking is I'm not worthy, then you can give yourself the thought of I am worthy, or I am loved, and just write that. It's helpful to write it out on a note card, and then on the back put the truth that supports this declaration you just wrote. And then the last one is rejoice. Be thankful for all God has given you. Choose to see the good and live in gratitude. And he even talks a little bit about being thankful for the things that God said no to, or thanking God for the things he didn't do. So this can be a little hard sometimes, but an example I have is we used to live in a different state, and when God kind of called us to move somewhere else, and when we found out we were moving, we were kind of like, I don't really want to. This is like the life we've always known. It's kind of scary, and for a while we're like, we don't really feel like it. We don't want to, but we did move, and I'm very grateful we moved. If we hadn't, we wouldn't have had the life we have now. I wouldn't have some of the friends I have. I wouldn't have the church I have. Just all that. And so finding the good in the things that maybe God said no to or weren't part of your plan. And so that's that book. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed and that this was helpful to you. If you have any good book recommendations, I would love to hear them, because I'm always looking for another book to read. And so I hope you have a great day. Bye!